How are there 5 Home Alone movies? Hey people, my name's Jim and on Fridays on this channel I rank film series and franchises, and this time it is Home Alone. Yes, Home Alone's a franchise, guys. Deal with it. If you enjoyed this ranking, please consider subscribing for rankings every Friday and also my other nostalgic movie content during the week. But let's get right into it. Let's rank the Home Alone series from worst to best. This movie is notorious. I've actually reviewed it twice with Rob from Cinematic Venom. Once when we were young, fresh-faced, and I was a little bit odd-looking, and again when we were old and I was still somewhat odd-looking, a little less. I'll leave a link to both of those reviews in the description because I really enjoyed making them and they're really great videos, and that's all this movie deserves, is rants and anger. This movie is a crime against Home Alone. This movie can fuck off. I'm not even messing around here. Don't care if YouTube decides not to promote me because of the swearing. This movie can fuck right off. So this movie decides to take the characters from the original 2 Home Alones, played by these amazing actors, played by the iconic child actor Macaulay Culkin, and replace them with a bunch of daytime TV actors. Especially Michael Weinberg as Kevin McAllister, who looks younger than Kevin was in Home Alone 2. This takes place after Home Alone 2, but forget all that, because they do. And remember this guy? Yeah, you remember this guy from Home Alone 1 and 2? Kevin's dad, played by John Hurd. Yeah, and this one, played by this guy, and he just left the family and buggered off to be with a younger woman. That's what it's about. Kevin's parents split up from Home Alone 1 and 2, and he went off to be with another woman, and Kevin goes to stay at this mansion because she's rich, and then the villains try and steal a prince who is coming to stay at the mansion. So not even robbing the mansion, they're going to steal a prince who's coming to stay at the mansion. And guess what? Marv is one of those villains. Yeah. If he wasn't named, you wouldn't realise it, because French Stewart plays him and dresses like Harry. Hat, scarf. The filmmakers couldn't differentiate between Harry and Marv. French Stewart, bless his heart, he's trying. I actually think he's quite funny in this movie in some moments, but it's still infuriating because he acts nothing like Marv, and he's like Harry. You know, he dresses like Harry, so clearly the filmmakers were just trying to throw something out there and didn't even know the specifics of the first 2 films, because the little kid Kevin in this, he even says that he's 9, but he was 10 in Home Alone 2. And guess what? It was actually supposed to be a pilot for a TV series. Are you bloody serious? Actually understand the series you're going to be making a TV show out of before you plan that, lads. So the next worst on this is Home Alone 5. Now Home Alone 5, the holiday heist, it's not as bad as Home Alone 4. Home Alone 4 stands tall among bad movies. It really is a Batman and Robin type bad movie. At least Batman and Robin was somewhat entertaining and zany. That was just a mess. Home Alone 5, the holiday heist, it's not as bad. You actually get a bit more enjoyment out of it, but it's still not very good. It's one of those films where you're sitting there looking at the actors on screen thinking, how are these actors so bad? How do they have the ability to not captivate me in any way at any point they are on screen? Kind of like my YouTube videos, but they are terrible. And guess who's the leader of the crooks? Malcolm McDowell. Yeah, Malcolm McDowell, Alex from Clockwork Orange. I'd rather see Alex from Clockwork Orange in this movie. This would have been more entertaining and more crazy and off the wall. So Malcolm McDowell is playing the leader of these villains and he's hanging around with these other crooks, and it's the most miscast group of actors I have ever seen. Especially Malcolm McDowell. He does not belong in a Home Alone movie as a villain. And his chemistry with these crooks is just so cringy because they're just all miscast. They should not be playing Home Alone goons. I do respect how this movie at least attempts to kind of hark back to the kind of innocence and young-minded feel of the first Home Alone. It actually does. There's a storyline of the young kid, Finn, played by Christian Martin, who is scared of the house being haunted that they move into. So it's full of that kind of childlike innocence. And he's not the most sociable kid. So he learns to not fear the house. He learns to be more sociable, to not be too obsessed with video games. Probably a lesson I need to learn. And they have that. So the script is actually trying to do something. But the problem is, Christian Martin isn't good at all, and you don't like watching him. He's not as bad as Michael Weinberg, but he's not very good at all. And none of the other actors are very good at all. So the script is somewhat decent in places, but the actors just can't carry it off. The booby traps are god awful in this. I thought Home Alone 4's traps were bad because they're just chance encounters. But this is even more so. These are just the most uncreative, boring booby traps ever that are pretty much chance encounters. And one of the main booby traps is wrapping Malcolm McDowell in wrapping paper and pushing him down the stairs. I'm dead serious. That's where we're at now with Home Alone booby traps. Just wrap an old man in paper and push him down the bloody stairs. Number 3 is Home Alone 2. Now, I loved this movie growing up. I really, really did. And I do like it. So this top 3, I really, really like all of them. But it just, over the years, kind of watching it as an adult, it just comes across a bit more bloated than the original. It's not as charming. It's not as innocent. It's not written as well. And it's just focused on being grandiose, it's focused on being the first film but way bigger. I think one of the key elements of Home Alone is the kind of down-to-earth, young-minded feel of it. And that is kind of missing Home Alone 2, they sort of go for it, but it's kind of like a strange kind of celebrity whiz kid film. Like Kevin is more of a little kind of schemer in this. And Macaulay Culkin almost has a bit more swagger in this, a bit more gangster edge, because he had become one of the world's biggest celebrities after Home Alone. So he loses that innocence, so he's less sweet, he's more just like whiz kid bratty in this. He's still full of charisma and he's still excellent in the film, but again, that down to earth feel, he doesn't feel as earnest as he did in Home Alone. They still try and do it in moments, but ultimately they do present him as a bit more bratty, a bit more confident, a bit more in your face with the way he is. You know, he's still likeable. He is still likeable, but that little element of charm is missing slightly. I think New York is a fantastic setting in this. I really, really like that. I thought New York looked like the coolest place on earth when I watched this film as a kid, and I still think it looks pretty darn cool today. Tim Curry is an absolute riot in this film. Home Alone 2 has Tim Curry. I can never hate Home Alone 2.
I love you. You gotta do better than that. I love you.
People call this movie the same as the original, but I actually think they're missing out a few of the unique elements it has. You know, it has the new character of Mr. Duncan in Toy Story. It has the hotel staff. It also has Kevin, when he reunites with his mum at the end, he says sorry first, because he's realised he's been a bit of a brat, which is a journey he never went on in the first one. This one he's kind of a little bit more mature by the end. So there are some little elements in here they throw in. The booby traps, I loved them as a kid, because I was a sadistic little bastard. I would sit there replaying them, watching this pain, watching this saw on the screen, watching Mark get bricks thrown at him. When you grow up, you kind of sit there and you're like, at some point you do go, Jesus, these traps are brutal as hell. Now, I think they just get away with it because Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern are amazing. You know, Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern are amazing. They are so charismatic, so fun to see, and they can make this violence appealing. They can. But the violence in this is so over the top. Again, it takes the movie away from what Home Alone was. It doesn't feel true to life. It doesn't feel believable anymore. You know, and Harry and Marv feel like mutants. And there's some incredibly dark booby traps in this, and it goes too far. I think the furthest it goes is when Kevin sets fire to the rope so that the guys fall off the top of a building onto concrete. So you either burn or die. So if I'm going to critically analyse Home Alone 2, I do really like the film. I would always rewatch it, but it has gone down in my estimation as I've grown older, because I just see what I didn't see when I was a kid, I guess. And number 2 is Home Alone 3, believe it or not. I must admit, I love this movie. I always have and I always will. I'm a grown man who loves Home Alone 3. What the fuck have I done with my life? Now, it is a dumbed down version of Home Alone, but in the dumbed down versions of Home Alone, which are the sequels, and I'd include Home Alone 2 there, this is the best for me. I just think it's really entertaining. I think it's really got a nice pace to it, it's got nice fun to it. I just have a ball watching it whenever I do. It's a nice escapist movie. Now, I wouldn't have said that growing up. I would have said Home Alone 2 was the second best, but nowadays, I'm all about Home Alone 3. I like the idea in this of these international criminals are now the villains. It kind of makes it into a little bit of a kids action film, I guess. And yes, it's not believable that these international criminals would do all this but then they get defeated by a kid, but that's kind of the point of Home Alone. Like, even in the first film, the Wet Bandits wouldn't get defeated by Kevin, would they? So you kind of retain their menace until that slapstick last act. And I love that. I love how this film did actually really try to go off in another direction. So basically a computer chip gets stolen by these international terrorists and they hide it in a remote control car to get it through customs, and it ends up in the hands of Alex Pruitt, played by Alex D. Linz, and they have to go after him and try and get it back. The scenes of the villains chasing that remote control car I loved. I know, it's entirely unique to Home Alone as well. I respected the ambition here, and it was great how Alex hooked up a camera to the remote control car so he could control it on his screen. For me, that was so cool. This is before the days of, when I got into using, cameras and YouTube, way before that. So it's just so cool to see this kind of tech whiz kid. He's a bit of a tech kid in this. And again, the remote control car is almost like a character in itself for this film, because it's such a cool car, such a cool thing to imagine as a kid, you defeating these villains with the use of this awesome remote control car. Remote control cars were the coolest thing ever to me growing up. I still think they're one of the coolest things ever. Maybe I should get one. Or maybe I should just bloody grow up. How about that? Alex D. Linz is good in this. I think he's charming. I think he's funny. I never compared him to Macaulay Culkin because I thought that was unfair. And I love these new villains. I think that the main villain, Peter Beaupre, played by Oleg Krupa, is quite creepy at times. Like near the end where he nearly catches Alex. It's quite scary. He's got quite a presence to him. And I like the other actors. I thought they were pretty funny. I thought they were. You were never going to match Home Alone. You just weren't. So if you're going to go in an entirely new direction and recast things, I like how this was kind of just a spin on Home Alone. It's like a spin on the idea of Home Alone. It's a unique spin on it. And I think people need to give Home Alone 3 another chance, because it's just a great turn your brain off, fun children's movie in my view. And number one, of course, on the list is Home Alone. This is a special movie. Simple as that. This is a special movie. It's one of those nostalgic movies where you go back to it and you don't put your rose-tinted glasses on. It's still just as good. It still resonates exactly the same way. What I would say about this on rewatch that I noticed is that the script is so amazing. It's very much a Back to the Future script. I always talk about the Back to the Future script being so tight, being just constant lines, and Home Alone is that. Home Alone is just a stunning script. I love the young-minded feel running throughout this film. It takes you back to that childhood innocence, and it relates so much to it. For example, when we see Old Man Marley in the film, and Kevin's older brother Buzz tells him this made-up story of Old Man Marley being a serial killer. Kind of reminds me of a kid, how you make up these local legends that are not necessarily true, and you believe them. There's Kevin being scared of the basement. There's Kevin stealing the toothbrush and thinking the police are hunting him. There's Kevin thinking his parents actually disappeared, not that they went to the airport. It's full of that kind of unique mindset you have as a child, where you feel like everything's personal to you and the world is kind of this mysterious, crazy place where magic is actually possible. It's about innocence. It's about that confusion that a child's mind can conjure up. It really, really does look at that, and it just resonates because it takes you back to that time. It's so kind of well translated to a children's mindset.
Dad, hold on. Can I talk to you for a minute?
Yeah, if you make it quick, Santa's got a little get-together he's late for.
Okay. I know you're not the real Santa Claus.
What makes you say that? Just out of curiosity.
I'm old enough to know how it works.
All right.
But I also know that you work for him. I'd like you to give him a message.
Shoot.
I'm Kevin McAllister, 671 Lincoln Boulevard. Do you need the phone number?
Nah, that's all right.
Okay, this is extremely important. Would you please tell him that instead of presents this year, I just want my family back. No toys, nothing but Peter, Kate, Buzz, Megan, Linny, and Jeff. And my aunt and my cousins. And if he has time, my Uncle Frank.
So when I grew up watching this movie, I wanted to be Kevin. And I love how I've had this kind of journey with this movie as I've grown up. This movie's kind of like an old friend. You see it every kind of year or every few years. and you still get that old feeling, but you also find out something new about them. So in this movie, I've gone from wanting to be Kevin to just appreciating this movie in all its glory. So it's kind of a friendship that keeps getting better. Macaulay Culkin was incredibly good in this film. Like, I've heard some people say it could have been any kid, you could have cast any kid in this. I never would agree with that. There was something special about Macaulay Culkin. He was a fantastic young actor. He had such charisma. For such a young actor, you know, to have those genuine, poignant scenes, but also be at times genuinely just a kid having fun. He kind of tapped into every side of being a child. I absolutely love the kind of charming, down-to-earth human interaction between Kevin and Old Man Marley, where he sees him in the church, and they have that nice back and forth conversation. But I do have to ask myself after this conversation, why didn't Kevin say to Old Man Marley, "You know what, mate, I trust you now. There's 2 blokes coming to rob my house in a bit. Can you give me any help?" Because Old Man Marley still turns up in the nick of time. So it was bloody lucky that he did, Kev, because you weren't actually going to get him there. Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern, phenomenal performances in this, and they feel very believable as down and gritty burglars. They really, really do, and I respect that, because they lose that in the second film. In here, they actually feel like people who could exist. Performances are so believable. Catherine O'Hara as Kevin's mum, you really sympathise. You really do, and that's incredible, because such a bad thing she's done, such a bad thing, but she's so earnest, she's so sorry. You really, really, really do forgive her. You do forgive her. And you know, it's that kind of nervous energy that Catherine O'Hara brings through. She kind of goes a bit hysterical in trying to get home, and that's very funny. John Candy puts in a wonderful cameo in this film. He almost steals the show. John Candy, what a warm-hearted actor, what a charismatic actor. There's just a certain energy in the air whenever John Candy's on screen. He's very, very missed. And he almost steals the show in Home Alone. He's amazing.
Tell me, have you ever gone on vacation and left your child home?
No. But I did leave one at a funeral parlor once. Yeah, it was terrible, too. You know, I was all distraught and everything, you know, the wife and I. We left the little tyke there in the funeral parlor all day. All day. You know, we went back at night when we came to our senses, and there he was. Apparently he was there alone all day with a corpse. Now, he was okay, you know, after 6-7 weeks. And I came around, started talking again. But he's okay. You know, they get over it. Kids are resilient like that.
Maybe we shouldn't talk about this.
What I love about Home Alone is, you know, even though it's somewhat unbelievable what happens, there's a believable tone running through the movie. Even though it's, you know, it's heightened, it isn't what would happen if a kid was home alone. He couldn't defeat the Wet Bandits. It still has an air of believability about it. It still feels humble, the film. And that's what I really respect. Home Alone 2 just goes into crazy territory with it. Home Alone still feels somewhat humble, still feels somewhat ground level. It's just a wonderful comedy. It's a wonderful family movie, and you can introduce it to your young children, you can introduce it to grown adults, and they will still love it because it works. It's just a good movie. That's pretty much what it is, just a good movie. Go and watch it. Don't wait till Christmas. Go and watch it. So thanks for watching, everyone. That's my ranking of the Home Alone franchise. Let me know your ranking in the comments below, and let me know your thoughts on my ranking. As I said, I do ranking videos every Friday on this channel, but I do nostalgic content about movies all through the week. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and I will see you filthy animals in the next video.